I spent 8 days and 7 nights in Spain. We visited the cities of Almaty, Alicante, Guatemala, and Madrid. Here are some fun facts about the Black Moors of Spain. Contrary to the racist notion of Africa being primitive and contributing very little to civilization, it was the Black Moors who civilized parts of Europe and paved the way to improved knowledge. Moor is a general term Europeans use to describe the Muslim people of North Africa and the Iberian Peninsula. Moors were often depicted with dark skin. At times, the word Moor was synonymous with black because they were a mixture of Israelites, Arabs, and Africans. The region, which extends from the frontiers of Egypt to the Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean to the Niger, was in ancient times inhabited by a people given the name Berbers, but whom the ancients knew under the name of Moors. They were called Marasi by the Greeks and Marai by the Romans. So, Moorish people would have come from what is today Western Africa, from the top of Africa, all the way from the Atlantic Ocean through Egypt, and from what is today Saudi Arabia and what is called the Middle East. In the 1965 film Othello, starring English actor Laurence Olivier, he was made to look like a black African Moor. Also in Shakespeare's Othello, Othello is referred to as a Barbary horse and black ram. Portugal and Spain were also the pioneers of the transatlantic slave trade, with Portuguese and some Spanish traders who took mainly West African and Central African people to the American colonies they had conquered in the 15th century. So for enslaved blacks working in European households, they were referred to as blackamoors.
The term Moor started to become interchangeable with the term black because it was basically the same thing. But when the slave trade started, they tried to objectify black people, Moorish people. So they would use the term interchangeably and they would just switch on to calling people black. But if you look at a lot of old documents, there's even slave ships called blackamoor.
They controlled parts of Iberia, which consisted of modern-day Spain and Portugal. They ruled for 781 years, some sources say 800, bringing Europe out of the Dark Ages. The Dark Ages is a period of intellectual darkness and barbarity after the fall of the Roman Empire. During this period, Europe struggled with economic, philosophical, and cultural decline and lacked scientific and economic growth. Europe also struggled with the bubonic plague, also known as the Black Death. This infection spread mostly to humans by infected fleas that traveled on rodents. So rats traveled on ships and brought fleas and plagued the people, killing millions of Europeans during these dark ages. This could also be due to some of the monarchs of French, Germany, and English believing that cleanliness amounted to sinning, and so it is said that they lived in barns with no ventilation systems. However, this was not so in Spain, where the Moors contributed to building 600 public baths and introduced astronomy, chemistry, physics, geography, philosophy, and more. They introduced the number 0 and the decimal system, which was a game changer in solving mathematical problems.
Think that Africans brought into Europe sidewalks, streets lit by lamps for miles that you could walk. To think that the Moors were able to control the flow of water so that water could flow into your home where you could get both hot and cold water. That they could build according to the wind systems so that you had air conditioning in the warmer weather and heat in the cooler weather. This is what the Moors brought in.
They also established centers of learning throughout their territories. Libraries contained thousands of manuscripts on everything from history to philosophy, mathematics, and more. According to the Center for Research on Globalization, nearly 99% of the population of Europe was illiterate, and even most of the monarchs themselves couldn't read or write. While education was universal in Spain because of the Moors. At a time when the rest of Europe had 2 universities, Moorish Spain had 17.